Is it possible that my desire to constantly achieve, to need to do more, to be productive is actually coming from a place of trying to avoid a wound?
Masha, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Productivity of highly ambitious people can be an addiction.
When someone is an alcoholic or a drug addict, you're like, no, that's bad. You're running from your emotions. But they can't tell that people like you and I run from our emotions using productivity and to-do lists and achievements and goals.
Productivity has been my tool for avoidance. That means it's also getting in the way of feeling, which for a lot of us is being able to feel and resonate with like a past version of ourselves.
When you try to move towards your inner child and all the feelings the inner child holds, you found this other part of yourself, which is this protective mechanism.
Can you explain what parts work is and kind of this protector part that you're talking about?
Parts work is this idea that none of us are a cohesive self. We all have many different parts of us. Most of those parts seem almost contradicting, and yet all these parts are part of an internal family system.
I'm sitting here actively wanting to do the work, and there's a part of me that's not letting me.
That is your high achiever part, trying to take over the healing process. The very problem can't be the solution. A lot of us are building these like big, ambitious lives, not because we're actually authentically running towards something. It's because we're running away from something.
You're listening to How I See It, hosted by Han. You guessed it, that's me. I am here to motivate and inspire you with guests from all different industries and backgrounds. So get ready for personal stories of success, of growth, full of highs and lows, and of course, unapologetic realness. This is How I See It. Okay, you guys, I am so excited because Masha Kay is here. And she is a nervous system coach that focuses on nervous system-based coaching for high performers and executives. Masha and I have been connected since she appeared on episode 53 of the podcast. We're now at like 149.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Has it been that long?
It's been that long. And we were virtual as well. So I had to bring her back, of course, not just because I'm obsessed with Masha. She has so much wisdom and understanding, but because we had to bring her back in person. So Masha, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and in your space.
I know.
It's amazing.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I was looking back when I was prepping for this episode and I was like, what season was this? What season was this? I think it was season 1 or just coming on to season 2. We're now on season 4.
I was pregnant because then the season 1, you had a big party.
Yes.
And I remember I was super pregnant.
Super pregnant.
Oh my gosh, that was a while ago.
So happy you could come back because I feel like every conversation we have on mic or off mic is really profound. I told you on the phone, I wanted to invite you specifically right now because I wrote a Substack recently. I had this like recent realization, especially because I've been like diving into some deep healing recently, that a lot of my struggle with inner child work is tied to like a deep rooted belief that it's a little bit unproductive, which made me realize that a lot of my productivity is actually avoidance. And it's so interesting. And, I'll always be an entrepreneur. I'll always be go, go, go. But I realized that my coping mechanism is productivity. So I was like, who do I call? Masha.
It's so interesting, right? That the number one thing you probably are like, no, this is the part of myself I love the most. This is like so healthy and so good for me and driving my life forward. And now you're like, wait, that's the thing that kind of maybe needs to be looked at because that's the easiest thing to not look at.
You said something very profound on our call the other day, which was that productivity is just, of highly ambitious people can be an addiction. Yeah. And a lot of people, myself included, didn't look at it negatively because the results and the output are productive. Do you see that pretty frequently in your work with clients?
Oh my gosh. I would say most of my clients fall into this category of overachievers, very successful, doing incredible things in the world, oftentimes have like a huge sense of purpose, and yet something is off. And when we start doing our work together, this is what becomes revealed. And it's a tough one because it's the very thing they love most about themselves, right? And that's beautiful, like that you're driven, ambitious, you've created something amazing, as have they. Totally understand that, which makes it that much scarier to look at is it possible that my desire to constantly achieve, to need to do more, to be productive is actually coming from a place of trying to avoid a wound? And if I were to look at that, what would happen?
Yeah.
That's scary.
It's really scary because I think a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included, have built their identity around what they do.
Yes.
And more so, I think it's become a tactic to regulate our nervous system.
Yes.
Which is really, really interesting to look at because it's kind of like, what now? What now? What am I supposed to do instead?
When you look at it through the lens of the nervous system, it really does reveal just a different layer, right? Like a different story that you might not fully realize about yourself. And I will say, yes, it's scary. Definitely like, what now? And a lot of pieces start connecting when you drop this in, right? When you're like, wait a second. The one thing I didn't want to look at because I thought I had no reason to think about it, like society glorifies people who are driven and ambitious. And again, there's nothing wrong with being driven and ambitious. But from the outside, you almost can't tell that like maybe that person is constantly doing and being productive and trying to achieve more because they feel so great and they want to contribute, and because they actually can't be in their own body.
Yeah.
They can't be with themselves. There's parts of themselves they're trying to outrun, right? Society doesn't realize that. When someone is an alcoholic or a drug addict, you're like, no, that's bad. You're running from your emotions. But they can't tell that people like you and I run from our emotions using productivity and to-do lists and achievements and goals.
Yeah. I think the moment I realized it was like about 2 years ago. I was sitting on my couch hacking away at my computer at 1 a.m. I just like kind of like looked around and I was like, what am I doing? What I'm working on right now does not need to be done by tomorrow. Because like, you know, you get it as an entrepreneur. Like sometimes you're like, fuck, this is due tomorrow. I got to stay up and do it. But like, it was like that every night for me. And I was like, what am I doing? And I think the question was scary in itself. And I know you just said me and you. So I'm assuming like a lot of your own healing was in this work as well.
100%. Like my story is so deeply rooted in this. In many ways, this is what brought me to this work in one way or another. I will say throughout my years of growth and healing, there's new layers of this, but definitely like I was the ultimate overachiever. First day of college, I picked my major because I was in like a really advanced math class and I came in and this guy's like, oh, you know what? Actuarial science, that's the number one career right now. And it's really hard to get into because there's a lot of like math tests that are really hard. And I'm like, done.
Challenge
Say
accepted.
No more. And I never questioned my major ever again.
Wow.
And that was it. Like I had my sights set on it. That's all I did. Those are the only classes I took. I had no interest, double majored because it would look more impressive on my resume, got the internship, got the job. Like that was just how I was my entire life.
Wow.
But then of course I get to my corporate job a few years in and I'm like, what am I doing here? This can't be my life. Like maybe similar to your moment at the laptop of like, what am I doing here? But you love your job. It was just like the timing for me was like, how is this my life? And then realizing I don't know who I am. And I realized the reason I don't know who I am is because I used achievement as this identity, as this badge of honor. And I used it as a way of ignoring my own desires, my own needs, getting to know myself, being in that like uncomfortable space of like being curious and the nuances and the grays. I didn't like that.
When you're avoiding your feelings through productivity and achievement, you're not giving yourself space to feel, yes, but also to discover like what those feelings say about who you are.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel the same way where it's like, I know who I am, but it is scary to think about the fact that like all of my like free time is also spent doing work because it's like the only thing I'm like really passionate and care about. And so it is scary. I can imagine it was scary for you in that moment too, to kind of look at what do I actually love and what do I actually feel about things.
Yes, your situation's slightly different, that you already knew what you were passionate about and you found your way here. And I think there's some part of you that's saying like, I know I'm also limiting myself, right?
Totally.
I'm not letting myself feel certain things or question certain things, like not letting myself go on these like different little detours that might take my life in a different direction, that might make my life fuller. I would argue any of us who use productivity or achievement as a coping mechanism, we think we're making our life fuller, right? Because if you're achieving more, you have more money, more notoriety, more status, whatever it might be. But actually, you're keeping your life small in many ways. You're limiting yourself. And again, that's one of those things that I think is hard to see, right? If you're drinking all the time, it's easy to see you're limiting yourself. Your life is really narrow. But it's hard to see that as an overachiever, that you're actually narrowing like what brings you joy, what gives you purpose, all into this one thing that is like so intertwined with your identity.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because I think the thing that illuminates it, at least for me, it was like apathy or like inability to like resonate, in my case, with an inner child and be able to work through some of the feelings and things that I have going on in my life. And so for me, it was looking at like, okay, if productivity has been my tool for avoidance, that means it's also getting in the way of feeling, which for a lot of us is being able to feel and resonate with like a past version of ourselves.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I thought that was so interesting. So I did read your Substack, and it was just so interesting how you came to this. And again, it shows how much work you've already done.
Thank you.
That actually, like, getting curious about your inner child revealed, what we call, so your inner child is one part of you. But there's frameworks that look at it as like we have many different parts. When you try to move towards your inner child and all the feelings the inner child holds, the wounds, the joy, the play, you found this other part of yourself, which is this protective mechanism.
Please get into this. A lot of your coaching and work with your clients is on parts work, correct?
Yes.
Can you explain what parts work is and kind of this protector part that you're talking about?
So parts work is this idea that none of us are a cohesive self.
Mm.
We all have many different parts of us. Most of those parts seem almost contradicting. And yet all these parts are part of an internal family system. One kind of modality of parts work is actually called internal family systems, right? So there's this family within you of these contradicting parts. And some of these parts hold your wounds, your pain, the things that happened to you when you were young or when you were older that were just too much, right? So they hold that pain, which is really beautiful and protective. Right? It actually protects your authentic self from being in any way damaged. Your authentic self stays whole, but these other parts start to hold your pain. But if we have all these parts holding our pain, well, that pain is too much. So we start to develop protector parts, which protect those younger wounded parts. Right? So these protector parts are protective mechanisms. Some of the mechanisms are used to manage the pain. So what can I do to make sure I never, ever feel those emotions, right? So like staying busy is a protector part. There's many, many different versions, but like what can I do to keep my pain at bay? Some of our protector parts are more like firefighters, which is like the pain is in front of me. What am I going to do? Is this when I numb? Is this when I eat? Is this when I shut down or explode, right? So we have many different parts. And I think a lot of people are familiar with the inner child. We could have many inner child parts at different ages, right? But there's these other parts as well. And it's the relationship between these parts that I think unknowingly to you, you were starting to touch on that. Yeah, I know I have this inner child. I kind of maybe see her. I know I should move towards her because she holds so much of the joy and the pain and all the things you are working through and have worked through over the years, right? But I think in your process of getting to her, you realize, what is this thing that keeps me from her? And that's that protective mechanism of productivity and achievement.
You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what's happening. I think I didn't mean to find that this was my form of avoidance, but I totally did. And I think the interesting part about parts work is that it sounds very ethereal in theory and also maybe easier than it actually is. The way we started talking about this, specifically this protector part, because I think that's the part that's very hard to understand, is that it almost feels like, and this is where my frustration has lied recently in therapy, that I don't have autonomy over myself, which gives me anxiety and frustration and anger. For example, I'm in therapy the other day. We were trying to do work on getting back to, this inner child, actually feeling the feelings of sadness and rejection and abandonment that I'm trying to work through. Yeah. And I'm actively sitting there. I've signed up for this therapy appointment. This is the second one of the week. I'm sitting there ready. And all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. I just start disassociating. And then I heard her be like, what's going on? And then I come back and I'm like, no, I'm listening. But then I'm like, what the fuck just happened? I'm actively sitting here making a choice to want to go there. And this part of me that I feel like I don't have control over kicked in and completely clocked me out. And I started venting to you about how frustrating that is, that I feel like I'm sitting here actively wanting to do the work. And there's a part of me that's not letting me.
I just want to say it is so frustrating, right? Especially when it's someone like you who's doing so much work, who's committed to really doing the work of healing. I think a lot of people are learning about healing these days, but they're not actually doing it. I know you are someone who is.
Thank you.
And so I totally get that, sitting in that room and being like, I am paying for this. I am trying to go towards what I know I need to explore. And this dissociation kicks in. And I just kind of want to name even that distinction of two parts there. You have your productivity part, which is managing you to keep you away from that pain that came up in that therapy session from ever getting close, right? If you could always stay busy, have a to-do list, be focused on your purpose and on your work and on your mission, you never have to feel it. But when you're in that seat in therapy. And your therapist is like, all right, let's go there. You can't use productivity. So a different coping mechanism takes over a protector part, which is just disassociate. Like I am just leaving my body. I think one of the pieces that's not talked about enough is that we will feel frustration. Like some part of you is frustrated that you can't just go there, that you can't just have autonomy. And that makes a lot of sense. And it also makes sense that that part doesn't let you go there. You have this younger part of you that you know you have a hard time connecting with, right? Like that's what your Substack was about. That means you haven't had a very strong relationship with her, right?
Yeah.
I want you to think of your parts as, especially these protector part and these wounded parts are kind of like your children, right? And so this part of you, you haven't connected with her. You guys haven't had a very good relationship. She can't rely on you. She can't trust you. You haven't been there for her, right? And that's okay. We all have parts that we've had to push away in order to survive. However, this protector part has been working for you for decades to try to keep this part safe by keeping the pain away or by helping you or her disassociate to keep you from going to her. And so you're sitting in that chair and you're like, well, why can't you just let me go there? Like, I want to go there.
Yeah,
And
like I'm the boss. I have the steering wheel.
Right. Yeah, I have the steering wheel. I'm the boss. But this other part's like, actually, you're not because you haven't built a relationship with this little girl, right? She can't rely on you. And so until you rebuild that relationship, this part is going to take over in a way that's going to feel like it's grabbing the wheel, it's taking away your autonomy. But it's kind of doing that in the same way if someone was protecting you. Like if you hired a bodyguard and you're like walking through the city and all of a sudden like they see something, they're going to like push you or I don't know, slam you into the wall to protect you from this person touching you, right? That's going to take away your autonomy, but they're doing their job. They're keeping you safe. And this is what the part has done. And so the piece around it is actually almost, and this is so contradictory, to stop moving towards it and to start to acknowledge the part of you that is showing up and trying to protect you. Even to acknowledge the frustration, right? Because that's a different part. But then to acknowledge like, there's some part of me that's working so hard to keep me safe. And this part has probably been here for decades trying to do this job without ever receiving a thanks from me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're expanding on this because I think it's so interesting because again, like a lot of us can hear this being like, this sounds so ethereal, like I don't understand, but it makes sense. Like it makes sense that like this person, this part of me, the protector is like, you're not ready. But I think it gets very confusing, almost in my case has made me feel a little bit manic because I'm like, no, I'm making a choice to be ready. And maybe that's my high achieving productivity kicking in too, because I want to like get this over with. Like I'm ready.
You just hit the nail on the head, the part that no one is really getting. That is your high achiever part, trying to take over the healing process and being like, okay, we know what it is. We're going to go towards it. We're going to fix it so you never have to deal with this ever again. When in reality, the very problem can't be the solution. The productivity and trying to fix and always do everything perfectly and stay busy can't be and won't be what actually heals you. It's going to be the thing that perpetuates the cycle. So you just picked up on the most important part. You are trying to like high achiever your way out of having to deal with this inner child in this like forceful, like, I'm the boss. Let me talk to this girl so we can get this over with.
I'm really glad you mentioned too how contradicting these parts are. And I think that's what makes, at least in my case, being such an intellectualizer too, makes me feel like a little bit manic and crazy.
Most of my clients will come in and when we start talking, we'll say, when I kind of help them identify some like inner turmoil or inner conflict, they're like, to be honest, like, yeah, I do notice this, but like, is this manic? Is this bipolar? Of course, bipolar is very real, but that is not this. We all have contradictory parts, and especially when we're used to being in control. And I just kind of want to name this. Like, I hope you don't mind me saying this. This is from our phone call, and I just thought it was so interesting. Yeah. It's been kind of top of mind for me, which is we were saying how we could have the same protector part, which you and I do, right? And yet it can come from different wounding. Right?
Yeah.
And you shared with me that yours comes from control. Like what you get from this productivity is a sense of control.
Totally. 100%.
Right? Mine, even you can probably pick up from the story I told, it was validation. Right? Like I like doing everything right. I like the validation it gave me. Everyone was very impressed. I was like the good girl, the one who did everything right. So mine came from validation. Yours came from control. And so there's this element of control that's coming up even here. You're like, I want to have control over this. Why don't I have autonomy, right? Like you could hear that same part that her problem with this isn't that you're not connecting with your inner child. Her problem is that you're losing control.
That's so good.
The manic part, right? What is this? Why don't I have sovereignty?
It's true. My question for you is how do we And I think this takes practice, like the comfortable part of like getting comfortable, not letting that part take over. But like, how do we like allow our protector part to put their sword down? Like, how do we create space so that these protector parts can like chill out a bit and allow us to get to a place we need to be to heal? Because I think that's a lot of my frustration is like, I have an understanding and know that if I cannot, resonate with this inner child, I can't like feel the pain from the past, that I will not be able to get to the next chapter of my healing. And I don't need to get to the next chapter out of ambition, but I think I need to feel better in my life, feel a sense of peace.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Like, I think parts work, the understanding of parts work is really interesting for people like you, like me, like my clients. That intellectual component is like, okay, this is making sense. Maybe I'm not manic, right? Maybe it all makes sense in how I've learned to cope and survive painful things, because that's all this is. But here's the thing. In order to work with these parts, it's not an intellectual understanding. I think that's what's like getting really missed right now in the healing space, that like so many of us have so much awareness and intellectual understanding, and that feels so good. Like, I get a high from that. I think you're someone who gets a high from that, but that is not actual healing. Learning about healing is not actually healing. I'm not by any means saying you're doing that. You are not. You are actually doing the work, right?
But it's a comfort zone for sure.
It is a comfort zone. Yeah. And again, for me too, I'm very aware of this. Every time I learn something new, I'm like, oh, I could just like hang out here, dig
the
my teeth into it.
hyperfixation.
Yes, the hyperfixation of like, let me learn more and dig into, and how does it apply to me and how does it apply to my friends, and let's all talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the actual healing. And so with these parts, first and foremost, with our protector parts, we want to start to become aware of them. In the same way you're aware of your inner child, now you're becoming aware of these protector parts. So first, it's that awareness. So like, I was sitting on my computer and everything was fine. Then maybe something happened and I just like zoned in, and then I lost like 3 hours. What happened there? Those kind of moments, we want to start to become aware of them. So it starts with curiosity, not judgment, just genuine open curiosity, not trying to change, not trying to fix, just trying to observe it in your day to day. And again, curiosity is like, that wording is important, because I want you to remove the judging it, or, oh, this is so bad, or here's that bad thing that I do that gets in the way of my healing. It's just like being genuinely curious, like, look at how I'm protecting myself.
Like acknowledging the passengers of the vehicle.
Yes, exactly. Like, oh, I see that part. Oh, look what she's doing. Oh, she got her hands on the wheel. Interesting. She must be nervous. She must be scared, right? That curiosity of like, what's causing her to do that right now, right? It starts there. And then building a compassion for that part of understanding, like starting to honor the protector part and all that it's done for you for so long. Again, most of us just want to kind of get it out of the way, but we need to have a relationship with that part as well. And when we start to honor it, it starts to trust us. We can start to ask it to kind of move out of the way, and which it often does. I would say that's like kind of like the first part, and it might not yield as much of the result that you're wanting of like, okay, I want to feel something different. That part to me is starting to get comfortable being in the body. Like, until you could build a tolerance for that part of you is going to be like, I don't think she's ready. I don't think she's ready. She's going to get so flooded with emotions when we let in this inner child, because that's my guess. Right?
Yeah. Like, you're sitting in your feelings and then all of a sudden you grab your computer and start working.
Yes.
Like, something triggering pops up. And then like 5 seconds later, you catch yourself just like in emails. I don't think it's like as conscious as it sounds when like you're describing it. And I think when I heard like in the body for so long, I was like, no, like I can get in my body by like working out and doing breath work. But it's the moments in between in the everyday that you don't realize you're not in your body at all. And I think I realized that. I was like, oh my God, I don't live in my body whatsoever.
You're spot on. That is the misunderstanding. I love how you just named that. I do have a hard time kind of conveying that to clients outside of a session. In a session, they could actually experience it and feel it. But intellectually explaining that is actually challenging, because you're so right. People think of disassociation. That's one way of not being in the body. Like when you were with your therapist, right? That was a clear, I'm not in my body. I just disassociated.
Yeah.
But yeah, working, it's like, well, my mind is on, I'm present, I'm engaged, but you're running away from emotions. And it is those little moments in between. It's when you use that Band-Aid. And again, other things are so much easier to spot, like drugs or alcohol, where it's like, oh, I'm reaching for that glass of wine every time I get comfortable. But when you reach for your phone to check it for your email, or you do a little bit more of like that project that you're really passionate about, you don't realize. So it's catching all those little moments. That little moment was driven by the fact of like being in your body felt like too much. And again, if you, someone who's done so much healing, is now like, okay, I'm ready to go towards my inner child, your parts know that if you were to get full access to that inner child, she might flood you with emotions that you have lost the tolerance to be with, or maybe never even developed the tolerance.
I would argue the latter, for
same.
sure.
That was my work.
When did that come up for you? Like, to go from being in this like research mathematics to now where you are working with so many different people, like, what do you think? I know you mentioned your wound, but like, what do you think that work looked like for you? Like, what part did you have to acknowledge?
I just feel like my journey and my process was very, very gradual. So it started with me kind of noticing like, oh, achievement has been this like badge of honor, this protective mechanism I've had, and starting to learn about myself. And I think in that process of learning about who I am and what I like and leaving corporate, there were these moments of discomfort. So I think that's kind of how I started rebuilding my relationship with myself. And again, it was really slow and gradual over many years, which at the time felt frustrating, but now I see it really served me.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there was a first layer that I did before I quit corporate. You know, I kind of started my journey like physical health, emotional health, mental health. Like I just like really immersed myself in holistic health. And so that kind of slowly made me like physically more aware of my body, more aware of my thoughts, more aware of like sensations in small ways. And then I got into my business, and that was like a whole different level of getting triggered. So that's when I uncovered the nervous system and I started realizing like, wait, I do get dissociated. Because I think until then, I just always was such like a high achiever, like get shit done kind of person. Like you, I'm like, I don't think I disassociate. I'm very in my body. I'm aware of my anxiety. But I was using, you know, achievement and at the time switching careers to kind of get away from those emotions. So once I got into my business, it brought up so much. And so there was some disassociation starting to happen. So I started working on that a little bit. And then it just kind of progressed. So I would say like for me, it was this really slow, gradual process. And then as I learned like about the nervous system, that was one layer of just becoming aware of my body and the different states. And that was like one layer of getting into the body, right? And then I learned about parts work. And I start doing that for myself before I do it for clients. I did that for a few years. And you learn about yourself through a different angle. And then I found somatic experiencing, right? And I did that for a while. So it was like layers. And it really helped me that I then got trained in those because that intellectualizing part gives me safety. And so it's been interesting. Like even the last couple of years, I've just found deeper layers of it. All to say, it hasn't been a one and done for me. It's just I continue to find deeper layers of being in my body.
Love that you broke it down like this. We can't just sit down and fix it. Like we can't outproduce or achieve our way out of the healing journey. Unfortunately, it's just years and years and years and years. And I think it goes on forever. And depending on the day, you know, it's a blessing and a curse. But you just have to accept and surrender to the fact that this is a process and you can't just get it done, pitch something, find another way, because that's how like my brain has always worked.
And here's what I will say, like looking back now, I've had kind of my journey to uncovering these tools and it's what like drives me to do the work that I do. Do I think it could have happened faster had I found the right tools earlier? Yes, and that's why I do what I do. But here's the tricky part to this, right? Because like I'm sure as I say this, you're like, okay, now tell me the fast way of doing it. The tricky part is you first need to accept that you're not trying to fix yourself. It's that need to fix that's coming from that productive part that is becoming that barrier. It's that protector part kind of standing there like the bodyguard and be like, nope, you're not going there, right? And so there is this like contradiction to like accepting that this isn't something to be fixed, that this isn't something that could be done instantly, that there are no right steps to doing this. It's not like if I journal every day and have this routine, then I'm going to be healed. I think that acceptance of that starts to open the doors. And I do think for being in our body, what I have found, yes, the nervous system, but also the somatic piece of it becomes really big because it's an inability to be present in our bodies. And I mean that, like that sounds very woo-woo, but I mean literally to be present with sensation.
Yes. No, I don't think it sounds woo-woo to me, but maybe because that's what I don't experience. So I get it. I realized like through just the last, like, honestly, like 6 months that a lot of the anxiety and depression I felt like my entire life was all in my head. Like it wasn't in my body. And I was talking to one of my friends and because she struggles with anxiety too. And she was like, wait, like your anxiety is not like chest pain? And I was like, no. Mine's like
Interesting.
all in my head. Not doing enough, not being
It's like
enough.
thoughts.
It's thoughts. It's
It's
intrusive
thoughts.
thoughts.
And what happens in your body?
Nothing. And like
that's how you
same
know.
with depression. It was never like something I felt in my body. It was like depressive episodes of like not wanting to be here and just like overthinking my worth, overthinking if I matter. And so it's been interesting as I've like dove more into this and opened up in these little ways. I'm starting to like feel slightly. And it's like incredibly uncomfortable.
Yes.
Where I like think something is wrong.
Yep.
All this to say, I do think that the confusion and the contradicting parts talking and the feeling of mania is actually kind of a good sign that I'm moving towards something.
100%.
But I think it's understanding that like, again, I can't outproduce out of what I need to sit in, or I can't like demand or force a part to like shut the fuck up or like get out of the way. And I think that still is very hard for me to understand. But I hear you when you're saying like you kind of just have to accept for it to be able to like move out of the way.
In fact, the fact that you can't accept it and you're finding yourself getting more frustrated and more annoyed than you probably have been in the last couple of years is a sign that you're getting in your body and the discomfort is getting overwhelming. The protective mechanism of those loud thoughts, do more, fix it, figure it out. You are hearing that get louder because this is getting louder. It worked for so long. And so it kind of like maybe decreased a little bit. And now you're like opening all of this up. So that's why it's getting louder. I don't know if that's helpful, but I think that connection is really, really important. It's like, no, don't go there. Don't go there. Why are you letting yourself feel this, right? Like that's why the thoughts are getting louder, and they're getting louder in frustration. Like frustration is a protective mechanism.
Yeah. I think at first, like when this started happening, I was like, I'm losing my mind. There we go. I'm done. And then I started to realize like, oh, like I think this is like actually me like starting to feel this is good. And so now when it pops up, I'm trying not to like grab my computer, and I'm just trying to like sit in it a little bit. Especially, and I imagine like the sitting in it is what you mean by like honoring the protector part, right?
I just have to say that's such an interesting observation that you said that it was in your head and not in your body. Like
I feel like it's very vulnerable for me to share because people don't resonate very much. But I feel like there's other people that probably have experienced what I'm talking about.
I'm actually surprised you say people don't resonate. I do resonate. Like I was not aware anything was happening in my body until I started doing this work. I remember the first time I became aware of my body was like anxiety and being like, I have these sensations in my body. I remember telling my mom, who's also like a typical overachiever perfectionist, and she goes, I don't notice anything in my body. Now, this is someone with chronic pain and autoimmune conditions, and that's very connected to the perfectionism and overachieving, right?
Yeah.
Like, so both of us totally related to that. And starting to feel sensation in my body in like a very real sense, I would say that's something that really only started to happen for me in the last 2-3 years as I brought the somatic work into it. Because until then, I was really mostly working with my thoughts, and that could take you really far. But then there's a ceiling, and then it's this like body work that you're doing, and it's sometimes the harder, scarier part. And again, it makes so much sense to me that your frustration, your overwhelm is kind of escalating because those parts are they're like clinging to try to save you in the only way they know how, which is like getting you back up here and in control.
Well, a lot of highly ambitious people who intellectualize their feelings live like above the neck.
Yes.
And like, I didn't realize how bad it was. Again, like I think on socials, if you're in this work and like you're in the mental health space or you're pursuing healing or like, you know, we see all these tools online, like you hear that and you're like, oh yeah, I'm an intellectualizer. I intellectualize my feelings. But in real time, you do not like see how it happens. Like even my therapist pointed out the other day, she's like, we were talking about like how you feel about something, and then you brushed over it and then immediately started intellectualizing something else, but you didn't even realize you did it.
Yeah.
And once she said that, I saw it. But in real time, I wasn't like trying to intellectualize. It was just natural. And I think a lot of times when people are looking at themselves and trying to figure out why are these things not working? Why are these modalities not working? it's because you don't have as much awareness as you think.
100%. And the intellectualizing often isn't awareness. I think that's very confusing for people. People who are good at intellectualizing and highly intelligent think they're developing real self-awareness when they're actually using the intellectualizing to stay away, right? Like your nervous system is keeping you away from this like landmine that is within you. And you're so right. So many are like live above the neck. And I'm thinking of all my overachiever clients who were like athletes and all of these things. Like they literally have been trained to not like, I feel pain. Who cares? Push past it. I'm hungry. Who cares? I got to finish this project. Like, even in the simplest ways, they've been conditioned to not listen to their body in, like, again, the most basic ways. And they're doing it all the time, all day. I'm tired. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to go to sleep. I have this deadline, right? Or I'm really uncomfortable. That's okay. It doesn't matter if I'm comfortable. I'm still wearing this. Like those little things are all teaching us to not listen to the body and to override those sensations. And yeah, then we get to like our 30s and our 40s. But like, I was in my 20s when it was happening where we completely can't connect with the body. And it's so real. Now, you did ask a really good question and you had said like, oh, I think we need to sit with discomfort. There's a little bit of a nuance here. And I was thinking about this in preparation for today's episode of like, I think people are misunderstanding this. Like one piece of advice we hear often, and it's with good intentions and it's definitely in the right direction, but I think misunderstood is sit in the discomfort. Right? Like sit in the discomfort with your body, like feel it and sit in it. Now, here's the problem. That might be overwhelming you. And if it overwhelms you, then next time you're that much less likely to sit with those sensations, right? Again, you don't have a tolerance for it. So if I told you, okay, next time I want you to sit there and sit for 5 minutes. Now, 5 minutes might be way too much for your system. And that might actually overwhelm and flood you and make you disassociate way more next time. So sitting with discomfort has to be very gradual and you have to be really attuned. You want to do a little bit, but not overwhelm yourself, right? So like I would say like that's the sitting in discomfort and being in your body. And we could talk about what that could look like. And then the honoring those parts might be, that's a little bit more cortical, but you might notice what happens in your body as you do it. Meaning, like, let's say you noticed yourself grab the computer right as like something triggered you. Maybe you don't even know what triggered you. Just notice yourself grab the computer and go on your email, but it's like 1 a.m. and you have no reason to do that, right? You might notice like, So you might just pause and notice that, be like, maybe some protector part is coming up right now to try to protect me from something that's like making me feel a little uncomfortable, right? And you might just kind of say that and see like, does that feel true? And you might say, I feel numb. And even feeling numb might be a sign of like, I feel numb. Okay, that's interesting.
It's probably true.
It's probably true if I feel numb or like, I feel like a little something in my chest. Yeah, this is probably why. And so noticing that might be like, okay, maybe this is where I honor and say, okay, thank you. Thank you for like trying to keep me away from that pain. And you're not trying to stop it. You're not trying to go towards the pain. You're just kind of like acknowledging like, you're trying to protect me. And I could tell there is some pain I'm avoiding. But the second I become aware of that, I am now in relationship with the pain in some way. That might just be like touching on it, but that's already building that tolerance to go towards it. And you might say, okay, thank you for protecting me. And maybe you decide to still check that email. But now you're doing that consciously with intention, with awareness that the pain is there.
I love this because I do think that it's something I've realized recently and I'm really trying to flex it. And I think it's helped a lot with this like feeling I have of anger that I can't like force myself or like I can't force the protector part to go away is that I'm starting to just like actually actively choose to not be angry about it anymore. I'm actually going to choose to like not be angry that I don't have control in this situation. And if I were to let go of anger, like what does that look like now? Like what is popping up? And I think that's where the discomfort is coming up because it's like, okay, sadness. And then it's like, whoa, I don't want to feel that. And it's a magnifying glass to like, like the control is rooted in feeling very sad that I didn't have that. And so I'm able to like, that's where intellectualization really helps because you can connect dots well. But I think for me, it's been accepting that like, I don't need to and can't be if I want the best for me, like angry about the fact that I can't control this right now.
Totally. That's so beautiful. I love how you map that out. And I think you're noticing of like, I'm feeling anger, right? So you observing the anger is very different than you being angry. I just kind of want to make that distinction. I think this is where, like, again, we could start getting in our body using intellectualizing, right? Being angry is like, I'm so frustrated. I'm so annoyed by this. I don't even want to freaking do this anymore, right? That's just being angry. But then there's the, wow, I feel really angry about this. Like I could feel that like my thoughts are spiraling, like my body language is like annoyed and like I kind of want to
Mm-hmm.
scream, right? So now you're starting to notice the anger and observe it. And the second you observe something, you're separating from it,
That's so
right?
good.
Right? So you're observing the anger and then the question you asked, which is so brilliant, which is like, is it possible that the anger is protecting me from something? And if so, what is it protecting me from? And that's where you would probably come upon, well, if I wasn't this angry, I'd probably be so sad.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny. My therapist has been asking me the horrible question and daunting question of how has your anger served you? Like every week. And
Yes.
then in the moment, I think I'm just so like shut down that I'm like, I don't know. But I
Yeah.
think it's in these moments of these in between where, like, again, like that question has been floating for what, a few months now.
Yeah.
And I can look at the fact that, like, the answer came in a moment and be like, wow, like I am moving forward. I am
Yeah.
making progress. And I think that feeds like the ambitious inside us too. When we can actually take note of the small things that are happening and be like, okay, like it's not a giant, contract being signed or a
No.
partnership, but it's like a small thing that I can take note of that's like, okay, things are moving forward. I am in control. I'm choosing to make decisions that I am in control of doing. Like I could just keep avoiding and, continue
Yes.
on. But like I think reframing control is something like when we're making decisions, like that is a form of control.
That is.
Like you just don't know
Absolutely.
what's happening and you can't control the progress, but like you can control the work you're doing. And I feel like that gets us probably to step 2 of letting these protector parts, kind of fade into the background. So like we've acknowledged, we're now honoring, then comes you're saying somatic work and actually
Yeah.
learning how to navigate in the body. How does one who has never been in their body really navigate working into somatic experience?
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of things. And you're absolutely right. So like we start noticing these parts and we can use the parts as a way of getting in the body, right? Like one part says, I'm angry. All right, how does it feel to say you're angry? Right? And at first you might just be like, I don't know, I have like a voice screaming in my head, but that's still you getting curious and getting out of your head. The second you're getting into curiosity, you're actually getting out of your head and you're like checking in, like, is it my thoughts? Is it my body? Like that's you already getting into your body. So I just kind of want to name that. If you're doing that right, you might just be getting into your body there. Now with like the somatic piece. So a couple of things with somatic. So like I use somatic experiencing and I feel like they have a couple of like fundamentals that are really useful for understanding how to get into your body. For example, one of the things you learn like so early on, if you've ever done any kind of somatic work or somatic experiencing, is this idea of like orienting. So a lot of what, I don't know, we're told to do is like go into the body, right?
Mhm.
Like meditate, do breath work, go inside. Inside is too overwhelming for most people. Right. So for most people, I would actually suggest going straight there is probably why you're never staying there. You're just getting
Yeah.
flooded.
Well, in overwhelming, I think people picture as like freaking out, but overwhelming can just be nothing. Because in my
Yes.
case, it's nothing. It's just like blank slate. Like it's
Yes.
not like I'm overwhelmed or I'm like, oh my God. It's like, no, like genuinely, like I see dark, I see black, there's nothing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you named that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Disassociating is over like peak overwhelm. Right.
Yes.
So if you're
It
like,
looks
I
like
feel absolutely
nothing.
nothing. Yeah, exactly. And you're so right. Those are like the clients who have the hardest time with it because it's hard for them to even identify. So yes, if it's absolutely nothing, that means some part of you is working really hard for you to feel nothing because there's so many sensations that are happening. Right. So kind of instead of going inwards, what's often helpful to do is something called orienting. And I like recommend this to everybody because I think it's just such a powerful tool. And all that means is looking around, like using your eyes to take in your environment. And if someone's listening, I recommend doing it right now. Right? Just like let your eyes scan, notice some colors or textures. Like even now as I'm saying it, I'm doing it and I'm like noticing the beautiful texture of the curtains or the colors of your table. And as you're doing that, so first of all, moving your eyes and moving your neck in this way is helping your system get out of survival. Like if you think of like an animal in the wild who feels threatened, they have a very rigid neck and their vision has like tunnel,
Mhm.
right? So you're shifting your vision, you're moving your neck, you're letting your system know you're safe, you're taking in your surroundings. And you might start to notice some shifts happen in your body. Like you become more relaxed or you become more present or you start to become aware of sounds. I think that's a really great practice for people to start getting comfortable being in their body. And again, that's just being in the present. But
Mhm.
again, most of us struggle being in the present, which is why we're grabbing our phone or checking our
Mm.
email or jumping to the next thing. So that becomes a really great starting point.
Love. That's great advice. I'm going to start doing that, like as I'm driving and as I'm sitting.
It's so powerful. And like, even if you're like in a meeting or you're feeling a little stressed, like literally you could be on a podcast and do it for 3 seconds. Like I just did it and I noticed a little bit of a shift in my body. Like it just kind of brings you back a little bit in this like not overwhelming way of like, I'm just here. I'm in the present. The other piece that I love that somatic experiencing helps us to kind of like bring front and center is we want to titrate. And titration just means you want to do little by little. A lot of people want to do a lot. They think like the deeper I go, the more healing I'm going to get. That's actually not true. The deeper you go into your darkest wounds or to the most uncomfortable places, the more overwhelmed your body gets, the more likely you are to avoid that next time. So we always want to be like kind of like moving towards like the edges of our discomfort. Like, so for example, let's say you're getting in your body and like you're like, oh, this feels really weird. You might just kind of like find a place in your body that feels like more or less okay. Like sometimes we'll have people do that. We're like, is there a part of your body that feels like okay? Like you're aware of it and it's kind of neutral, right? And like, just can you leave your awareness there? And what's that like?
Yeah.
Again, people think I need to find my anxiety in the middle of my chest and I need to stay there for 10 minutes. It's like, no, that's actually going to overwhelm you.
Yeah.
So you want to work with like smaller sensations and just become aware of them. And again, this is why getting support on the somatic piece is helpful, just for someone to kind of help you not go too far in either directions, because it's so easy to do that, either not do anything and zone out, or to like go too deep and then just feel so overwhelmed and scared by it.
Yeah.
That's another big piece.
When I have gotten asked that question in the past, like, where do you feel anger or where do you feel anxiety? I'm like, I don't know. And it's like such an overwhelming, annoying question, like almost embarrassing question, because I'm like, I genuinely do not know how to answer that question. What would you say to the person that's listening and is like, I believe in this work, but it sounds so ethereal. Like, I don't know where I'm feeling different things.
Yeah. Like, let's say that exact experience. You're frustrated. You're like, I don't know. I don't know. Okay. When you say, I don't know, what's that like for you? Just like to feel like, I don't know. And you might notice, like, I don't know, my hands do this weird thing. Like, I don't know. Okay, just like notice that. Right? You might start noticing these really subtle things. And let's say you can't even notice that. It's like, okay, why don't you start with noticing, like, how do you know you're hungry? You eat every day. At some point you become hungry. How do you know you're hungry? What are the clues that tell you're hungry? What are the clues that tell you're thirsty? What are the clues that tell you have a full bladder? Right? Like, it sounds so simple, but that is like an entry point. We all are feeling sensations. Again, I think most people are just trying to feel like the most intense, like my anxiety, right? You might not be ready to go there. So let's like start with those smaller things. Or like, let's say you're having a really beautiful moment with a partner or a friend, and you're like, this feels so good. How do you know it feels good?
Yeah.
What are your clues that it feels good? Right? And the clue might be more like, I don't know, my body just kind of feels like loose, or I have this visual that comes up. Like, it doesn't just have to be like, I feel tingling, in my chest and something in my right foot. It feels like it's not that way for everybody.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's really like, I don't know, somewhere in the chest, just like slightly different variations, or it might be their body, or it might be like movements. And sometimes they're like, I don't have a word. I just feel like, it's like, okay, so like just even notice that you do know it. You're just like not aware that you know these things. And you're looking for almost like the advanced kind of version of it instead of starting at like the most simple basic, which is why I love that orienting exercise of like, most people do it and they're like, oh, I feel a little better. How do you know you feel better? And they'll usually tell me some version like, my thoughts are a little slower and like my shoulders feel a little less tight. Okay, great. You're getting in your body.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Like, as you were talking, this came up for me how like I've always hated doing anything I'm not good at. Like, I've always been like an amazing student. Like, school came very naturally to me, not to be fucking annoying, but I'll say it. Like, it did. And anything that didn't, I like refused to do. Like, math and science, not good for me. Everything else, I like could get by. And it's funny because I think like a lot of the reason why I hate doing things I'm not good at is I think a little bit of embarrassment, but also like having to feel not understanding something.
Yeah.
And so like when you avoid things that you know you're not good at, you don't have to like feel discomfort. And so it's really interesting as you're talking, I'm like, well, I think the reason why body work and somatic experience has been so difficult for me is because I get so frustrated and I like shut down because I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not good at it. So I don't want to do it. And now I think it's about like getting past that and just being like, okay, what are small ways that I can, try to like notice something? And the orienting thing is great. I think also for me, like instead of grabbing the laptop, I'm like, what can I do that's productive that's in my body? And so like I've been going to like the sauna and I can hide behind like this is very productive for my health. Like I'm in the sauna,
Yeah.
but at least I'm not like grabbing something as a distraction. I'm still having to like sit in the sauna without my phone and be
Yes.
like there,
100%. Oh my gosh. So first of all, I completely relate to what you're saying. The not being good at things, like when I decided to change my careers, like one of the biggest realizations I had was like, I've never failed at anything. Not because I'm so amazing. Yes, like I was good at school like you.
Yeah.
But because I just never let myself do anything that I could potentially fail at.
Uh-huh.
And yes, the somatic work, like I said, like I did that work years into my journey for this exact reason, because it was uncomfortable for me to sit there and be like, I don't know. And like, am I making it up? And this feels really weird. And like, to this day, when I go into like a somatic session with my practitioner, I have this like, I don't know if I'm going to get it right. Like I still have that thought pop up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's now just something I'm like, yep, I see that part of me. She's trying to keep me safe and I can kind of just move through, but I completely relate to that. And what I would say is like, this is very kind of something I've noticed for myself, but also working with high achievers. Like the key is as a practitioner to help them work through that without it overwhelming them. Meaning like help them notice the little wins. Or let's say they're saying like, I don't know, I'm frustrated. Like then we move towards the frustration.
Yeah.
And like I help them notice the frustration and they're like, well, I'm frustrated. Yeah, like I feel my chest and my shoulders. Like, but that's you doing it right there. You're feeling it. You're just looking for something else. But the thing that's here is your frustration, right? So it's like, just kind of want to name that as well of like, you're absolutely right. That's going to come up. But you can use that as an opportunity to work with that. Like you can use your frustration, your anger, your annoyance as the thing you get curious about.
Yeah.
Right. And like, I kind of want to name this as like you were already saying, like, I love what you said. Like if you could move yourself to something a little different, something a little more body oriented, that's amazing. And I'm sure for a lot of people that kind of feels a little bit out of reach.
Yeah.
So what I always encourage, and it sounds too simple to be effective, but it's actually the most effective thing you can do. Like if you're reaching for your laptop and you catch yourself doing that and you just notice like, I'm reaching for my laptop. Yeah, it must be because I feel a little uncomfortable. Or you might say like, if I don't do the thing my body wants to do, which is like check my email, what am I going to feel? And you'll feel a little bit, whatever that might be. Like, I don't know, I just don't like it. And you just notice that and you observe it. And you could observe it for 30 seconds. 10 seconds of like, the idea of like that I can't just like go on my laptop is like kind of driving me crazy. Notice that.
Mm-hmm.
Your curiosity is already developing a relationship with that. And if you did that every time, you would start to make different choices. Even if you made no effort to make different choices, you would start to make different choices because after 10 times of grabbing your laptop, because there's this overwhelming feeling in your body, you're going to be like, maybe I don't even want my laptop. Maybe I just want to go for a walk. Or maybe I want to like call up my friend because I'm like really frustrated about that email I got 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. And it's creating space for you to be able to be in your feelings. And like over time, it's so funny because like we're all achievers here, right? Like struggling to, get to this place. But like I feel like we're not applying like the same principles we use like in business to like our healing. And it's so funny because like I was like listening to us talk about the fact that like we don't like doing anything that we're not good at, but like entrepreneurship is literally that.
Everything.
And I like didn't struggle with that.
Really?
But I know.
That's amazing.
But I think it's because like I mean, of course, like normal growing pains, but like I wasn't like, oh, I don't know how to like, for instance, the studio, like I don't know how to work a camera and whatever. Therefore, like I'm intimidated and I don't know how to do it. It's like, to me, I was like, well, to be productive, I have to figure this out. Therefore, I'm going to do it. And I think sometimes if we can apply some of these, like, maybe I'll say like toxic patterns to actually like real productive things like our healing, it might work. And so even like looking at like, what are the things I have to do? Like, what are the uncomfortable things I have to do to be able to move forward? And for us, that's maybe like, be okay with being not great at something. Be okay
100%.
With not producing. Like that is the tolerance you have to build to be able to get past protector,
100%. And it touches on the idea of like repetition, right? Like what I'm naming here is if you do this over and over again, that amount of repetition, you're going to become more aware and it's going to create a choice point where you then could decide, take the laptop or do something else, right? This is also really confusing for overachievers. It's like we're really good at doing hard things. Like actually once you said it, I'm like, oh, I know what she means. She means like she did it anyway. Yeah, I did it anyway. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's why it's kind of glorified as a protective mechanism that we are kind of good at like powering through really
Yeah.
hard things that
Yeah.
other people are not able to do. Why are we able to do that? Because we don't
Masochist.
feel in our body. Yeah, like the amount that pain is almost like that's fine,
Yeah.
right? But here's the thing I always like to point out to my high achieving clients, you're good at doing hard things, but those hard things are actually easy for you. Like for you to work super late or to stay up or to get something done or complete a project, if we're probably being honest, it's not that hard for you.
Yes, this
You're
is
going to
so
do it
good.
easily.
Yes,
Like-
I'm so glad you're bringing this up.
Right? For you, the hard thing is not doing
Relaxing.
it. It's slowing down. It's being with a sensation. So I don't know, for me, that always helped because I always prided myself in being someone who does hard things. And I was like, well, I'm not really doing hard things. Those hard things are easy for me. The real things that are hard for me are like pausing when I'm grabbing my laptop for 15 extra seconds.
Yes, it's very important to remember that like people's hard things are different. Like everything is
yeah.
relative. For
So
me,
relative.
this is going to sound so annoying, but I like mean it wholeheartedly. Like it is hard for me to wake up on a Saturday and like walk and like sit and like not do anything.
Yeah.
Like that is hard for me. The idea of going to the beach on a Saturday gives me anxiety. Like that sounds hard to me. I mean, I don't really love the beach, but like, you know what I mean? Like doing something fun like that.
It's so funny you say this. Anyone who knows me now is going to be like, she relates to this. What do you mean? First of all, most of my clients would say what you're saying. Like, I know what you mean by it sounds annoying, but actually it's so relatable to anyone who's an overachiever. Slowing down feels deeply uncomfortable. And I always think back to Saturday mornings. My husband's like brings this up, makes fun of me, where we would wake up and like sometimes we wake up at like 10 after being out late. Because back then I used to like go out and drink. I'd wake up at 10 and I'd already be panicking that I'm behind. I'm like, I'm going to have no time to do what I want to do.
I'm lazy.
I'm late. Nothing is good. I would wake up in a panic and he's like, we didn't get out of bed yet. How could you be late to a day you have nothing planned for? Like, what are you talking about? But I remember that's how I woke up every Saturday, Sunday, which is funny because now like I'll spend as much time as humanly possible at the beach and like do as little as possible. But like it took me so long to get here. And I think like I always like share me like at the beach or outside. I think I share it because it still shocks me that I'm able to do that.
Yeah.
Because that is so not
like
who
you're proud
I
of the
was.
work you've put in.
Yeah, like to me, it's almost like a symbol of like the work I've done. Maybe it like appears, it's like, oh no, I'm just showing at the beach. And it's like, no, it's a symbol of like why I do this work that I could actually like relax now and enjoy because that didn't come easily to me.
A question I wanted to ask you is like, I feel like we brought up like all of these things, like looking at our surroundings and, you know, like journaling and the things that actually make impact that are very small. I feel like we have started to view these things as almost cliches. And maybe that's because of just like the oversharing on social media or the over intellectualization of therapy and healing, which I think is not all bad. I think it's, you know, really shown people like what they're capable of and really made people comfortable with the idea of healing. Like I can imagine our parents even listening to this conversation are like, what the fuck? I can't believe they're talking about this publicly, which is all great. But I think almost we've started to view these really important things as cliches, therefore resulting in no one doing it because they're like, journaling's so simple. Like we're all trying to like overcomplicate it. Do you agree?
Oh my gosh, I totally agree. You said that so beautifully because you're absolutely right. Like I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I don't know if you'd be doing what you're doing if not for the shift we experienced in normalizing mental health and talking about it and sharing about it, of course. And I do think that there's kind of like some issues that have come up around social media and sharing these things. But you just named the biggest one, which is people, again, unconsciously, most of us who are just like on social media in the wellness, health, healing world are kind of addicted to intellectualizing and not kind of very in the sense that we're always looking for the next thing. We want like the more advanced version, right? And I think that's a really big problem because here's the thing, learning about healing is not actually healing. And I think what a lot of us are doing is the equivalent of like I always use this example, learning about weightlifting by reading all the textbooks and taking a bunch of college classes on it, but having never stepped into the gym. So if you go into the gym and you try lifting 20-pound weights, those are going to be probably too heavy for you. It's going to be impossible for you to lift 100-pound weights, right? Like you think that just because you learned everything there is to learn about weightlifting, that doesn't translate into actually being physically stronger. I think the same is true with healing. A lot of us keep consuming content on healing and think that if we learned intellectually the basics, we need to go on to the next level, the more advanced level, the more advanced level. But we didn't actually practice the basics, right? Like we didn't actually get the reps in with the 5-pound weights. We have no business going to the 30-pound weights. In fact, the 30-pound weights are not going to do anything for you, right? In the same way, like think about your health. If you're not doing the basics, you taking 45 supplements, like anyone who's into wellness knows it does nothing. Like if you're not eating well, getting outside, exercising, like taking care of yourself in the most basic ways, the most perfect supplement regimen will do very little. That's like the thing you do when you got like 80% of the way there. And now you're like, I really want to optimize for that last 20. I think the same thing is happening here. It's like you need to do the basics and you need to do so many repetitions. There was like some research that showed, I always use, now I'm going to get the numbers wrong because I'm saying it out loud, but it was something like in order to build some degree of muscle memory, doing anything new, you need 300 reps. And in order for it to be embodied, so kind of like natural for you to reach for that tool or mechanism, you need 3,000 repetitions.
Wow.
Think about 3,000 repetitions of journaling. That's years of journaling. Even 300 is like pretty much a year if you did it every single day. How many people can say that those tools that they're rolling their eyes at, that they've done even 100 repetitions
Well,
of
and
it?
then they're complaining that it doesn't work.
Exactly.
And again, trying to find like the easy fix. And I think this is just the new Band-Aid effect, honestly, because I think at the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, like, do you actually want to like feel better? Like to your point, like it's not enough to be aware. It's not enough to learn. Do you actually want to live to your potential? And it takes uncomfortability. It's very uncomfortable and takes a lot of work. And I think the reality is like a lot of us don't want to put in that work.
No, you're so
And some days I don't either. But I think it's about understanding that like, and being honest, like, am I actually putting in the work? Am I actually like doing the small things that can get me to point B, C, D, and not trying to skip from A to Z?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're naming something so important, which is like the instant gratification,
Mm.
the Band-Aid. And I don't know about you, but I do feel like looking back, I think I came into this world a little bit looking for a Band-Aid. Like I was good with my routines and repetition, but I think I was kind of hoping like this would just be a Band-Aid. So like I wouldn't have to feel this stuff, right? Which is like, it took me a long time to get to the point where I can tell you it's not about fixing. Because for a long time, I was using all of these things to try to fix. So I do think like our culture of like instant gratification, fix everything, just like make the discomfort go away is really getting in the way here. And you do need to get honest with yourself of like, are you doing this work because you want a Band-Aid? Because it's so uncomfortable that you just want the pain to stop? That's numbing. If you just want that, you're looking for a Band-Aid, this is not going to be helpful to you. Like this conversation is really not going to be helpful to you. A lot of the things you're seeing online won't be helpful to you. But if you really want to heal, that's actually going to require you getting deeply uncomfortable, right? It's the difference between trying to get away from discomfort versus trying to step into the discomfort and build a tolerance for the discomfort.
Totally. And deeply uncomfortable, again, doesn't have to look like you bawling like in your bed every single night because it's so traumatic to experience.
Yes. By the way, we don't want that. That's not
deeply
our goal.
Uncomfortable can be like actually keeping the promise of waking up every day and not looking at your phone. That is uncomfortable because it's actually so hard to do. Or like deeply uncomfortable is like writing down every day how you're feeling or going on that walk like in the midst of chaos. Like that is deeply uncomfortable when it's not normal and it's hard to do and you have to keep that promise to yourself every single day. 100%. I think people are looking for like the crying in the bed realization, myself included, in like what I'm going through right now. And I think it's about focusing on the small little things that are actually more uncomfortable than the deep dramatic moment one time.
This is so brilliant. And I'll take it one step further. You, not you, just anyone out there. And again, I was that person too. You wanting to have that like in bed hysterical moment is actually you perpetuating the pattern, creating like the intensity and the chaos. Because by the way, high achievers also usually have some version of like addiction to stress and intensity.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking for that intense moment in bed and I'm hysterical and I had this huge breakthrough and it like my life feels like it's shattered but also coming back together, that's you falling into that trap of intensity. For high achievers, all of it is about incremental changes, small things, everything. All healing is this slow, gradual, incremental, iterative process. Anything that has this big high, this big release, probably isn't ideal for you.
Yeah.
Right. And like this also goes into things like plant medicine. Again, nothing against that. But for high achievers, I can't tell you how many clients I've had come to me and been like, I've done X amount of like plant medicine ceremonies. They almost like become addicted to these highs
Yeah.
and they think that's healing, but it's actually not healing. It's perpetuating the pattern of like intensity and chaos and more in a very unhealthy way.
Well, and I think the thing is too that like if you're not familiar with being in your body and you're not familiar with feelings, like that's kind of what you picture having feelings like as.
True.
So like you're watching movies or you're seeing someone hit their like rock bottom and coming up and you're like, okay, that's what it has to look like for me to like really see progress. And the like little small things that like people who don't struggle with this stuff feel on a day-to-day basis feel so small and unimpactful. And so I think for me, it's been realizing like, okay, like it's not going to be this intense, like someone is with their hand grabbing my heart and I feel like I'm having like a heart attack, chest pain. It's going to be like something that I would normally just like think is like the wind blowing a different way.
100%. And that would be healing, because if you are able to notice the wind blowing a different way or the subtlety, that means you're getting in your body. If you need that super intense experience to feel something, that means you're not actually in your body. But you're so right. It's, we're not seeing that small incremental piece of it. And I will say this is why I do love the somatic work and somatic experiencing. And what I was saying of like, I do think my journey could have gone differently had I found certain tools earlier, because when you go at it slowly, like these incremental shifts, when you teach your body to be able to step into something hard and then pull back to regulation, when you do it that way, healing could actually happen a lot faster, but it's very counterintuitive, especially to an high achiever, overachiever, right? And it's something like I really have to educate my clients on and make them feel safe with, because they are looking for that high. And I always have to tell them, like, actually, you wanting the high and the intensity and the breakthroughs is the pattern that's been keeping you stuck. And us going slowly, that being the hard thing, is going to be the thing that gets you results faster.
Yeah. I mean,
And
it always
takes a few sessions, but then they start to feel it and they're like, okay, yes. And it starts clicking because they're feeling it.
Yeah. Well, I view like it as the like quicksand. Like if you're like struggling and fighting against it, it's like you're not going to go anywhere. And then the moment you just like let go, like
that's so good.
Things move.
That's so good.
So I'm in that right now where I'm like, I've made a decision. Like I'm putting my hands up and I'm going to see where it takes me for sure. I can imagine a lot of high achievers are listening and they're like, well, if I do the work, how the hell am I supposed to continue to run a successful business? I need to keep being able to execute. I want to be an ambitious person. What is the differentiator there?
Yes, it's the $1 million question, right? Like it's the thing we've been like moving towards this whole conversation that we weren't talking about. So the differentiator to me, the easiest way to say it is it's the difference between running away from something versus running towards something. A lot of us are building these like big ambitious lives, not because we're actually authentically running towards something. It's because we're running away from something. Our emotions, our fears, our wounds, our insecurities, all of that, right? And the truth is, you might be going 1,000,000 miles an hour and you might be building something pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you're not nearly as in control as you think you are. And what you're building is not as authentic and expansive as it could be. Because there's so much of yourself that you're not accessing. There's so much of yourself that you're having to be like, oh, don't go too far this way. Don't go too far that. You're limiting yourself without ever realizing because you're going so fast.
Yeah.
But the truth is you are limiting your potential. You're hiding parts of yourself. And so it's not that I want you to have less goals or less ambition. Not at all. I just want to make sure you're running towards something authentic, something that feels good, something that feels expansive to you, something that feels joyful, right? And I truly believe that what you build from that energy, the energy of regulation, expansion, is going to be so much bigger than what you already have. What you already have is great, but I guess I'm arguing for the fact that it could be so much more.
Well, I think it's about intention, right? Like if you're creating and building from an intention, even if it's subconscious, that's like rooted in like hurt, in a wound. That is limiting. Like I could see how that could be limiting. Even for someone like me, I think, I'm obviously not triggered by the conversation, but I think my natural reaction would be like, oh my gosh, I built my entire business on my authentic desire. Like, what do you mean? But I think it's more so like what keeps me fueled and going.
Yes, it is your authentic desire, but I guess I'm also maybe suggesting there's more of you.
Yeah.
Like you've suggested, that you're still connecting with your inner child. Like once you get access to that part of yourself, you're going to discover new parts of yourself, new emotions, new potentials, right? Like there's going to be even more of you. I think it's also what drives you in the moment to moment. Like you're so right about the intention, right? Like when you grab your computer to answer those emails, did you do that from a genuine place of like love and excitement and joy? Or did you do that from a place of like fear and scarcity and just like, I just need to get away from something? Because that intention is then being channeled into your business.
Yeah.
So I know that's a little bit more of a spiritual take, but it is being channeled into your business. And even if you don't believe that more spiritual take, although I don't think that's that spiritual, there's also how you feel.
Yeah.
As you're building this business, okay, you're creating something great and maybe a lot of people are benefiting, but do you feel good as you're building it, right?
Yeah.
Like because the experience of you building something should feel good to you. And a lot of people are building these amazing things and just destroying themselves in the process, but only realizing once they're completely burned out or once their mental health is suffering or once they're just too overwhelmed, right? Like there's a world in which you could move towards your goals, create amazing things, and not burn out and not lose yourself and still have a very full life. Like that very much exists, but this is the work that needs to be done in order to get that.
Yeah, or even in my case, like I feel like it's like I at least want to enjoy when I do take a day off.
Yes.
Like I want to be able to, like I don't necessarily mind like the machine and like the chaos. I think maybe that will change as I get older and like work through more of this stuff, but I don't think I'll ever like slow down necessarily. But I do think I would like to enjoy not doing something on a Saturday. Like I was complaining to my friend the other day. I was like, I really want to not work, but I also don't want to feel uncomfortable right now because I'm not in the mood to have a bad day. So I almost have to like force myself to like do something I don't want to do because I don't want to feel uncomfortable. Like that shouldn't happen. Like I should like be able to enjoy free time. This business is rooted in mission and wanting to help other people. But if I'm getting there in a way that like is not productive, to your point, like there are going to be things that fall through or there's going to be energy that is not authentic to like my ultimate desires.
I love how you said that. And even think about like that day you take off and you feel good. How much fullness could enter your life on that day, right? Like maybe it's just rest or maybe it's hanging out with a friend. But for you to be able to enjoy it, like you almost like broaden the spectrum of emotions that you could feel, right? And here's the thing, like I think the more we could tap into the uncomfortable emotions and sensations in our body, we're actually expanding our capacity to feel all the good, which is why we're doing it, right?
Yeah.
So you could enjoy that day off and just like have so much fullness and richness in your life. And that richness will then be brought into your business in the form of more creativity or more authenticity or being able to help more people, right?
Yeah.
Like it's going to get funneled back in.
I think your business ends up being more successful because like things are fresh. Like you took a break, you took an eye away, like, and so again, like in the moments or if you're someone who really gets anxiety taking time off or taking your focus away from what's been important to you, I think remember like you're going to stay like stuck or you're going to get stagnant if you don't kind of force yourself to take time off. Again, like I think like some tough love is required sometimes in the beginning when it comes to healing. Like I said, like using my toxic traits in a productive way. Like what are some things this in between I can hit before I full send to like take time off? Like what are things I can do in the middle? Is that maybe like I'm going to like bring my laptop out to the beach or a nice view and like have a drink while I'm like looking through some emails. Maybe that's like an in between.
That was like a big thing for me, just like making work just feel joyful. Yes, as a high achiever, you might need to use the fact that like if you don't do this, either you're going to burn out, this isn't going to be sustainable, or it's going to get kind of stagnant and like lack that like fresh connected energy, right? Or you're going to achieve all your goals and dreams and then you're just going to feel nothing.
Yeah.
Which is like the number one thing I hear from people I start working with. It's not all or nothing. Like for high achievers, the path forward is to avoid the all or nothing mentality that got them in trouble in the first place.
Yes.
Even with small changes like this of resting more, relaxing, being in their body, feeling emotions, it has to be super incremental and gradual and intentional.
Yeah,
I
I
love
love
how you
it.
named it.
I'm so thankful you came on today. We could talk for hours. We could just
Hours.
keep going.
I was just thinking, I'm like, I can keep going.
But you know how we end every episode. And I don't remember what you said in episode 53. So we'll have to compare after.
my
But
gosh.
looking back at
Yeah.
everything you've been through, the ups and downs of your own healing and regulating your nervous system and coming to terms with your high achieving traits, how do you see it?
Oh my gosh.
And now you're a mom answering this question too.
Well, that's kind of why I'm like freezing a little bit. I'm like, the truth is I see it so differently now that I'm a mom. I feel like becoming a mom. It's funny that we spoke about parts work so much. Becoming a mom, parts work took on a whole different meaning, right? Because now connecting with my inner child and my protective mechanisms, I can't not see my little girl.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, I have this relationship with my inner child. I have the same relationship with my daughter, a similar relationship with my daughter. And everything she sees me doing and responding and the coping mechanisms, like this work took on a much deeper meaning. It actually became much easier for me to connect with those parts of myself because I get to see her. There's an externalized version of that little me just walking around and is so joyful. And
Probably
so,
very
yeah,
emotional though.
it's very emotional. I really understood parts work a little more intellectually. I could tap into those emotions, but like my range was quite narrow. And then I had Chloe and I came back to parts work after giving birth. And like, honestly, one of the biggest things I've been working through in like my somatic work, which my practitioner, I have her include parts work as well, is honestly just like the overwhelm that comes with like how full life could feel. Like when you just feel so much love, and that love is coupled with so much fear, and how overwhelming that is, and how like my nervous system's capacity has really had to expand, right? Like this whole conversation has been, you and I didn't use these words, but the word is we've been trying to talk about how to expand a high achiever's nervous system capacity to be able to hold more. Because right now it could hold a lot of stress, but it can't hold a lot of emotions or discomfort, and that's limiting them. So we've been talking about expanding that capacity, and motherhood has really allowed me to expand that capacity in a very different way. And it's just really interesting to see how more joy and love kind of has you tap into the other side of the spectrum of like fear and grief. And if you want to be able to be present with this little person in front of you who needs so much from you, you need to stay present with it. So I can't use those coping mechanisms as much because the second I use them, I'm disconnecting from her. You know, when you do this work of like connecting with your inner child and the pain we've gone through, you know, as children who have felt that, I'm like, it's heavy. It's also just incredibly beautiful and very expansive.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I feel like it's like this life has shown, like, me, and I can imagine you too, especially with having your daughter, that like life can be really expansive. And I think if you have like deep hurt, that is kind of like the limiting belief is that like life can't be expansive. Therefore, I have to like achieve to like make my life expansive.
Yes. And isn't that interesting, right? It's like I have to achieve to make my life more. But in reality, what we're doing, what we spoke about this whole time, is that you're trying to feel less. So you think you're expanding your life, but you're actually deeply limiting your life.
That's so good.
And so in order to really expand, you actually need to allow yourself to feel these things. And like I said, it's like having her, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much joy that I want to feel. But if I were to let myself feel the joy, I have to feel like the fear that comes with being a parent. And if I can't let myself feel the other, I'm going to limit how much joy and presence I have. And so I got to do it. I got to keep getting uncomfortable. And it's like really been a whole other layer, a deeper layer to like all the work we spoke about.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's really important for like practitioners and therapists to share also that they are human.
Yes.
And it's so refreshing. And I just appreciate your vulnerability always and just like your willingness to like go there with me.
Thank you. I love it. I can talk to you for hours.
I know.
Truly.
I wish you lived
love
closer.
this.
I would like show up at your house all the time and be like, we need to sit, get existential with a
I
glass.
know. Anytime you're by me, please come by.
I will. Thank you so much. Please share where people can follow you. I also know that you're launching a program right now.
Yes.
Share it, please.
Yes. So people can follow me on Instagram. I'm Masha Kay, Kay, on Instagram. And I'm launching another round of my program called Recalibrate. So it's a 6-month, one-on-one coaching program that you do alongside a community. So other people who are working on expanding their nervous system's capacity to actually match their goals. So everyone in our program is working on a tangible goal.
Love.
And we're supporting them, giving the nervous system support, the community support, so they could actually keep moving through that. Because as we all know, as high achievers, it's one thing to be able to like know the right thing to do, but then your coping mechanisms take over, right? And it limits you. And so this is how we support our community and just making sure that they really step into that next level, that their nervous systems could really hold the level and the magnitude of their goals and dreams, because often that's where the mismatch is. So we're just kind of helping bridge the gap.
So exciting. I'll link all of that below in the
Nice.
description, but thank you so much.
This was wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. This is amazing.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you leave here feeling motivated and inspired. Do not forget to rate and review the pod on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget to follow How I See It Pod so you can keep up with podcast updates and see who's coming on next. And if you're not already, come join the fam and follow at How Han Sees It. Thank you guys.